Now, PowerPoint has come into a lot of misuse. It's come down pretty hard on it. But I still believe that thanks to Bill Gates, we all have the chance to be Steven Spielberg. We just don't. We've fallen into this corporate PowerPoint where people read bullet points to you. How many people like it when you're trying to read someone and someone talks to you and keeps interrupting? Nobody. Okay, good. That's part of the problem. Looking at notes, because one of the nice features of PowerPoint is the presentation mode. Could you explain that to us? PowerPoint expert.
It's nice because depending on which version of PowerPoint you have, they'll show a picture of the slide, and then they'll have your notes up as well, and also time and things like that. So it's like a second screen.
Your main impact on making your message memorable is still going to be emotion. Now, people of a certain age can remember where they were when John F. Kennedy got shot, when they heard it. They can tell you it was 50 years ago, but they know it. They don't remember what they had for breakfast last week, but they know 50 years ago where they were. Maybe people a little younger can remember where they were when John Lennon was shot. I remember where I was in a car coming back. I just dropped my girlfriend off, and I was driving home, and it came on the radio. Again, I don't remember what I had for dinner 2 days ago. And we can all remember the trade towers when the terrorist attacks. That happened how many years ago? Until it was 2001. So that's 12 years ago. We can all remember that. You can't remember a relative's birthday, right? Because they haven't. The reason why we remember these things is anytime something has a strong emotional impact, you remember it. You're not going to remember a bunch of words on a screen. Now, of course, I can't shoot a president every time I do a presentation. It's not very effective. It doesn't keep you out of jail. So I think what we really need to do is to add emotional images into our presentations instead of just reading the same old bullet points. When you're up here again, presentation mode is good. If you have computer crashes, what are some of the things you can do if the computer crashes or the stuff won't work? What's that? You can do handouts, which comes to an interesting point. Should you print out handouts of your slide? How many people say yes? How many people say no? Okay, the people who say no, go ahead and tell me why not.
Mine wouldn't make any sense because mine would more just pictures with maybe one word on the slide. So if you just look at the printouts, it doesn't make any sense. If you can understand the entire presentation from the printouts, then you didn't need me there in the first place.
Yeah, that was great. You know your stuff. If I could hand out, and someone told me they knew someone was so good at PowerPoint they lost their job and that people just took the handouts. But what you're telling me is, let's face it, if I was to just print out a handout on my slides and all the information was there, I have no value. What do you need me for? You can read yourself. Yes?
My thought was when you do the printout of the slides is that you also have the little note things on the side. So if all you have is a picture, while you're talking, people are also taking notes, and therefore that would make it relevant.
That's a good idea. Yes?
Also, I see it as an advantage for the audience because once they leave the room, they have what you presented.
Okay, those are good points. And the way they were addressed in a book I read, Presentations Zen, if you ever get to read that, it's a really good one. There's a few other people out there, a lot of them are on the West Coast, Japan or Silicon Valley doing this. And the recommendation is, instead of printing out your PowerPoint, print out the notes of your speech. So that way people don't have to focus on taking notes, but they'll have everything you said, and not just the bullet points, but the explanations of those bullet points, and they'll have it in a nice format. It will be in complete sentences. so they can remember it better. Speaking is still just storytelling. You can use the slides to add an emotional punch. You can use them as a punchline for your talk, where you say something and then the slide comes up and it's a joke. Another thing you can do if it crashes is put sticky notes on your hand. Also, and you can read them. I've seen a guy do that. Scott Bercoon does that. He put a little sticky note, like one of those little thin ones, on each one, and just, you know, point 1, oh, point 2, point 3, and you got your whole speech there. So expect it. Again, hyperlinks, be careful of. You never know when the Wi-Fi goes down. Videos, you can either access it on the internet, which can be risky. You better have a good Wi-Fi connection. Or if you embed the video, does anyone have a problem with embedding a video before? Okay, you put it in there, and I've put in the video, and it was high def, and it was a little long, and it actually crashed the PowerPoint. So again, be careful of that. You can put a video in, make sure it's low def if you can, and make sure it's not too long, or you'll just be pulling your hair. I want to start with creating it. How would you create a good PowerPoint? What's the process that's going in your mind if you were to do that? Where would you start, Kathy?
I think it the same way that you do a speech to begin with. Strong beginning, content in the middle, and a strong close. Try to make those key and then build out from there.
Okay, so would you start on your computer and doing the slides, or would you start with pencil and paper?
Probably pencil and
Okay, Jennifer?
Post-its are great. Put a single item down on Post-it. Up on a wall and your husband comes in and thinks you're plowing the airplane of the government.
Those are...
Being able to move your ideas around is really useful. when you're
paper. So like a storyboard?
That's a great, it's storyboard. You're hitting all the answers. Go ahead and write it like a normal speech out on paper, or do it with your eyes, with your other things. The Post-it notes are great, and this is a lot of people do them. So you have a bunch of Post-it notes on your wall, right? And you're writing your speech. And you can even draw your slides on these. Oh well, this wall, I got to really put them on. But the nice thing, and this is what Jennifer pointed out, suppose you have, there's technical difficulties with Post-it notes. That's the problem.
The windows.
Yeah, you're right, the windows. But say you have 5 ideas, and you say, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you say, you know, I don't like that idea there, I'm going to move them here, I'm going to move them there, and then look at them until you can get your flow of ideas and draw your slides. And then the last thing you do is turn on your computer and do it. Don't rush. Don't rush the process. It's still pencil and paper. You still need a single idea. You know, that one of the main points I'm trying to make here is that the PowerPoint presentation is no different than any other presentation, except you have PowerPoint as one of your possible video aids, visual aids. It's not all about that. Now, we saw a very bad example of what a slide looks like. Let's see if we can design a good slide. Give you some quick rules that this is the experts are saying. Should you have paragraphs?
No.
No. Is how many words should you put on a slide maximum? 5? Very good. Okay, one of the gurus, Seth Godin, recommends no more than 6 words on a slide. Now that's a little tough. I think the exception to that would be if you had a quote, and I think a quote is good for establishing credibility. 6 words is tight, but that's what's recommended. The other things is how many fonts, how many type fonts should you have maximum? 2, never more than 2. And of course, they should be something you can very clearly see. 1. Speaking of the pre-designed PowerPoint slides or keynote slides, same thing. Should you really use them as they're put up? Or what are your thoughts on this? the pre-designed slides. Like you see the pre-designed slides, topic, you know, text box, this box. You always change them. Okay. One of the things that I hate is when someone gives me their company logo slides. Has anybody ever gotten that? And all around you've got their company color and their logos. Talk about killing creativity. It's like, all of my slides have this blue thing with a logo. Also, you can make your pictures, and I've done this on some of mine, make them bleed to the edge. So you can have this one, it's a little bit of a picture frame, because that's what I use, but you can just make it bleed to the edge and set. This is a quote that I use. Every artist was first an amateur, Ralph Waldo Emerson. So, and actually I looked at the quote, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the quote. But you can use a longer one to make your point. So these again, these are guides. How many people have heard of the golden ratio on that, in design, okay? The golden ratio, and usually this is recommended in slides, is if you think of it as a tic-tac-toe board, you can use the grid lines in your PowerPoint to sort of create this, to separate it into thirds. There's a reason why you separate it into thirds. It's a big design principle. It has to do with leading the eye. If you're doing charts that have a lot of information, should you use 3-dimension or 2-dimension, do you think? Give me a hint, Zen. If it was Zen, you're going to use it. 2. You want to keep it simple. People get, suppose you had, like Tiffany was talking, suppose you had 10 points here. 10 different data. Here's the rate of smoking in 10 different countries or 30 different countries. If you had a chart, would you do a chart with like all 30 countries on it? Or would it be better to take the best, the worst, and wherever we are here in the US or wherever your audience is, to try to just simplify it down so that they don't drown in the information of 30. Good places to get stock photos. This is all written in the notes. A website called istockphoto.com. And I sometimes just pull stuff out of Google Images. If you do that, just try to make sure that you've got a little bit of a resolution. You don't want that 200 by 200 pixels, because then it'll really blur up there. But to close, as any kid will tell you, the 2 best parts of the school day are recess and show and tell. So that's why when you give a speech, I come to recess is doing some activities. Show and tell is your visual aids and a story. Go with it. So we're all big kids.